The USFL has without a doubt had some up and down, especially when it comes to kicking field goals. And maybe instead of ups and downs, I should say lefts and rights, and for sure outside of the field goal posts. But today we're going to be looking at how the longest field goal has progressed, and what better way to start than with week 1 extra point number 1. The only reason I'm including these is because we quickly learned after this extra point that not all extra points were guaranteed. So to some degree, this was a feat of its own as Nick Rose knocks through the very first point of the USFL for kickers. He would then later come back out when it matters the most to break a tie that would still eventually lose the game, but he came back out and put through a 47-yarder. This would keep the progression from being a longer video directly eating into my AdSense revenue, but I'm gonna let it slide for poor Nick because after missing a couple more field goals in the following week, he would soon be cut, rest his soul. But here he goes as he lines up to knock through a 47-yarder. It's also a good time to note that a lot of these guys are missing field goals because they had a chip inside the ball that was greatly messing with them. But the next week would come out and they had fixed this issue, changing the footballs around, and then you would see this guy start to get hot here. This is Nick Vogel. Get used to his name for about the next 3 kicks because this he blasts through a 50-yard attempt, to ignore the fact that it says 49 on the screen. The next week he would come back through and put through a 52-yard attempt, but before he even got done showboating for that kick, they had him back lining up for a 53-yard attempt. So he would go on to change the record 3 times on his own in just 2 weeks, which is pretty impressive. Well, let's note that there was no kicks during week 3 that were longer than that, so he went from week 2 to week 4. After this, things would kind of slow down a bit, and you might notice here that Cole Murphy for the Michigan Panthers is out. If you don't recognize Cole's name, well, it's because he wasn't the kicker for the entire year. In fact, this was his 2nd week kicking for the Michigan Panthers after they cut their kicker and punter to only then sign a kicker and then also sign a punter afterwards, regardless of the fact that their punter was arguably the best in the league at the time. But that's a different story for a different day, because Cole Murphy was in fact the truth, and he's so much so the truth that they decided to line him back up again for another week, this time for a 60-yard attempt. Now, if you notice in the win column, they still have only won 1 game, which means despite Cole Murphy's best efforts to try to win them games, their offense and defense were not getting it done. But that's not going to make me appreciate Cole Murphy any less than I'm doing right now, because holy crap, I want to know what happened right after he made that field goal where he ended up on the ground. I'm guessing one of his O-linemen just tackled him, but watching it still just makes me curious at who was so aggressive with their star kicker that after he would do something as good as this, you're going to go over and knock him over, threatening to dislodge his shoulder, or in fact just injure him in one way or the other. That's not something that you necessarily want to do, but I appreciate the love that they're trying to show him anyway, because I'd be doing the same thing. So I guess really, what can I say? Finally, this is a new name for this list, is Ramiz Ahmed comes out and knocks through a 61-yarder. This happened just last week, and good God, we finally gotten past midfield with our kicks, and we're approaching slowly but steadily the long-time standing NFL record, which is 63 yards. So we'll see if we ever make progress past this. The reason I made this video now is because I doubt it's going to happen. But as always, I hope you guys enjoyed, and peace.
Go ahead. He's got a shot. He nailed it.